So can you just give us kind of like the nickel tour through here?
Sure. Any place in particular you'd like to start?
No, you're the guide.
So if you want to come with me, just an interesting one back here. Cadillac station wagon. That's one of only 2 factory-produced Cadillac station wagons up until the CTSV era.
Really?
So when they were closing Clark Street plant, which was a huge Cadillac assembly plant here, the workers got together with the union and kind of after hours and on their own time made 4 vehicles to show GM that there was something viable that could be built at the plant. So they built 2 station wagons, a 6-door limousine, and a hearse.
This was built at the Cadillac plant. It wasn't subbed out to...
Correct. This was, so, you know, there's been Cadillac station wagons, but they go through coach builders.
Right.
So this was built at Clark Street by GM corporate employees.
So I got to tell you, I mean, the front is Cadillac. The back, to me, looks like Jeep Wagoneer.
Well, it's funny because I've got 2 of these, the only 2 they built, and both of them have different taillights. So this one has the earlier style front-wheel drive Fleetwood taillights. The interesting thing, and it's kind of hard to see, unfortunately, in the bubble, you know how normally you're a station wagon guy.
Yeah.
You know how normally the back seats are very plain, regardless of the trim level of the wagon?
Oh, look at that button tough. And it's got a vinyl top that goes down to that trim level there.
If they, as they're doing this in the plant after hours, metal finishing that whole roof to section it is a lot of work. Putting a vinyl top, doing it, the metal work, and then putting a vinyl top over it makes the finishing easier.
So what we thought we'd do is just kind of walk through and you can say, yeah, this is that, and just do a quick walkthrough, and then there'll be cars that we want to come back and spend a little more time learning about.
Okay, so you want to do a quick walk and talk and then we'll come back?
Yep.
Okay. It's a 1925 Rickenbacker. Captain Eddie Rickenbacker was a World War I flying ace. And if you look at the emblem on the grill, it's got that emblem was the emblem on the tail of his fighter plane.
So Eddie Rickenbacker, relative of Eddie Rickenbacker?
The Eddie Rickenbacker, Captain Eddie Rickenbacker.
Wow.
36 Ford Phantom, beautifully restored piece, 4-door convertible, of course, because it's a Phantom. The one on the end here is an AM General Mighty Might. They only made those for a couple of years. 2,400 pounds wet, flat 4-cylinder, all aluminum construction, full-time all-wheel drive.
Flat 4 cylinders, water-cooled, air-cooled?
Water-cooled. At that point, that was the 2,400 pounds was the capacity for a helicopter to lift. But they only made those for 2 years because in '63, Sikorsky came out with the Sky Crane, which had a lift capacity of 10,000 pounds. Behind us is the Osceola. That was Henry Leland's personal car. That is the first closed cab Cadillac ever produced.
Wow.
And actually, Fred Fisher, the uncle of the Fisher brothers, did the coach work on that.
Look how tall. I mean, just imagine how bad the aerodynamics are. And this has probably got a 1-cylinder?
Yeah, it's a 1-lung multi-fuel chain drive. Ironically, the one next to it is Horace Dodge's personal car. That's a 1919 Dodge Coupe.
I think wearing top hats was a big thing in those days.
Well, and if you look at the picture, we have pictures of Leland with the car. He's standing next to it, and his forehead is almost to the top of that roof.
Oh, he's that tall.
Yeah, so even in that era, when an average man was 5'5", Leland was a tall gentleman.
A big man in the car world.
Indeed, on many levels. That's another Scripps booth. That's called the Rocket. 2-cylinder, standard driving position, narrow. It was a big fad in Europe at the time, and when John Scripps Booth spent his time there, he came back, and that was kind of where they went with
And this was built in Detroit?
Yep. Fiero next to it, 2 M4, 84, first year. That's one of the first 50, I believe.
So, yeah, donated by Pontiac in 1988. But it tells you the options, power windows, and tape deck, and whatever. Tape deck, this is something you don't hear anymore.
Kaiser.
Okay.
That Kaiser, actually, the significance of that was that would have been built at the Willow Run bomber plant. So after that plant was decommissioned, it was made available to manufacturers because they wanted to keep manufacturing in the area, and that Kaiser would have gone down the...
So Ford didn't have any ownership of that plant after the war?
Well, it was a government entity. So whereas companies came in and managed it, a lot of times it was still government surplus at the end of the war.
Yeah,